Baba Kama Daf Mem Chayet. We were learning the Mishnah that if I bring fruit into your house without permission, and then your animal goes and slips on my fruit, I am responsible for that. However, yesterday we saw that Rav made a qualification. That's only if the animal of the household slipped on it and caused damage that way, then I, the fruit owner, have to pay for it. However, if your animal went and ate of the fruit and got a stomach ache and died or got damaged because of that, then according to Rav, I am not responsible, because I can say your animal should not have eaten it. Your animal should know that this doesn't agree with it, and therefore should have kept away. So that's a different kind of scenario than slipping on it. All right, that's going to come up again in the following discussion and story. There was a certain woman went into someone's house to bake bread in that person's house. Ata barha de mare de beta achala lelisha chabil umit. And a goat that belongs to that homeowner went and ate the woman's dough, and it was not good for it, and that goat died. They went to Rava to judge the case, and he said that this woman baker who came into the house has to pay compensation for the goat. Now we wonder, Lema peliga adirav de'amarav haviala shelo tochal. This seems to contradict Rav, because Rav said that if your goat goes and eats from the dough, or whatever, eats from my food that I brought in, then I am not liable, because your goat should know that it's not good for it, and this is unusual for a goat to go and eat something that doesn't agree with it. Usually it knows better, and therefore I don't have to watch out for that, and I should not be responsible. So we have a contradiction. The story says the woman is responsible, but I would say that the woman should not be responsible. So we answer, Amri hachi hashta. Wait a second, these two cases, can you compare them? Hatam shelo birshut la kabil ale netiruta. Hacha birshut kabel ale netiruta. There, Rav's case was where the one who brings in the food did not get permission, and therefore just trespassed, put the food in there, and that person that brought the food did not accept upon himself or herself the responsibility to guard the animal to make sure it wouldn't eat. And that's why in that case Rav said, well, for eating damage, the woman would not be responsible if it was not birth permission. However, here, this story about this woman who came in to bake, she did have permission from the homeowner. So along with getting permission from the homeowner comes also the responsibility to safeguard the animals, to make sure that no harm will come to them, not even from eating the dough. If she sees the goat is coming to eat the dough, she has to shoo it away and make sure it won't come. It's kind of ironic that by getting permission, she is actually more responsible than if she just trespasses and comes in. But that's implied in giving permission. Fine, you can come and use my kitchen, but you have to make sure that nothing happens, even something unusual like the goat eating food. But now we challenge this. We have to fine tune it, because here you said when someone comes with permission, then she does accept upon herself responsibility for the goat eating. But yesterday we saw a similar story where a woman enters someone's house to grind wheat there, and she does not have permission in this case. And if the homeowner's animal would come and eat the grain, the homeowner does not have to pay for the grain. I mean, she came in without permission. So certainly he doesn't have to pay for the grain. And furthermore, if the animal would be harmed by eating this wheat, which is not good for it, then she is liable to pay for the damage to the animal. So now we can infer what's the reason why she is liable, because she trespassed without permission. But if she came with permission, then she would not have to pay. So here we have a contradiction, because we just had a case where she came with permission to bake, and the goat came and was harmed, and the Rava said liable. And here we have a case of a woman who came if it would be with permission, and brought the wheat, and the animal died from the wheat, she would not be liable. So now we have a contradiction between two cases, both where she comes with permission. The answer is Amre litchot chitim kevan de la ba'aya sini'ota midi la ba'e mesalekem marvata de chaser nafshayhu ve'aledi de ramen tiruta. It's different. When she enters to grind wheat, that does not require her to have privacy. It's just grinding wheat, so the homeowners can stick around, and since they're around in their own courtyard, they continue to be responsible to watch out and make sure that no damage happens to their own property and their goats. And that's why, in that case, the one that we saw yesterday, she is not liable. However, that's different from the activity of baking. In order to bake, she's going to have to roll up her sleeves, and it would be improper for her to do baking, kneading in front of the homeowners. So therefore, part of the giving permission is that they're going to give her privacy. So marvata, the owners dechaser of the courtyard, misaliken nafshayu, they're going to absent themselves. Hilkach aladida ramya netiruta. Since she's there alone, she is responsible. That's implicit. That responsible for guarding to make sure that none of the homeowners' property animals will get damaged from her activity. So that's actually the difference between them. So to sum up, if she comes in without permission, then that would, according to Rav, if the animal comes and eats something, she would not be responsible. But when she comes in with permission, it's not that by getting permission that automatically makes her liable. It depends on the situation. If she comes in with permission and the homeowners are around, then the homeowners are responsible to make sure their animal isn't going to eat something that's not good for it. But if by coming in she has to do something that the homeowners can't be there for, they have to absent themselves, then that comes along with her responsibility to make sure that nothing negative will happen to the homeowner's animals, and if not, she has to pay. Okay, hichnis shoro lahasar balabayit. The next case in the Mishnah was where a person brings their ox into the home of into someone else's courtyard without permission, and the homeowner's ox gored it, or their dog bit it. The homeowner is exempt, right? Why'd you bring your animal into my courtyard? He could say. So it's not my problem. I don't have to guard my animals within my own courtyard. Amar Rava, we're going to see a series of 3 halachot that Rava teaches in this context. Hichnis shoro lachasar balabayit shelo b'rshut. If I bring my ox into your courtyard without permission, v'chafar ba borot shechinu ma'arot, and it goes and digging pits, ditches, and caves all over the land, really ruining your land. Ba'al ashor chayav b'niskeh haser. So I, the owner of the ox, have to pay for the damage that I made to your courtyard. That's pretty straightforward. Uba'al chaser chayav b'niskeh habor. However, those pits that my ox made, if it should cause damage, some other animal comes and falls into it, the owner of the courtyard is responsible, not me, even though my animal is the one that dug the pits, but still it's on your land. And so you are responsible for that happening on your land. This would, of course, only be in the case where it was your land and you made it hefker. See, if it's on your land and someone wanders into it, you're not responsible. But if it's your land and then you make it hefker, and we're going to explain why. Even though we have a halacha that one is liable to a pit only if he digs it himself. If my animal digs a pit, that's too indirect, and I'm not liable. And in this case, the owner of the land, it's not even his animal that dug the pit. So therefore, it's really indirect. So although according to that, one would not be liable, and for example, if that was in the Shut Harabim, my ox goes and digs a pit in the Shut Harabim, I'm not responsible for it, only if I dig it myself. But this is different. Here, because the owner of the land should have filled it in and did not fill it in, it's like he dug it himself. So it's different from in the Shut Harabim, where no one has responsibility to fill it in. But here, when my animal goes and digs a pit in your land, although I have to pay for that damage, Nevertheless, it's the homeowner that has the responsibility to fill in the pit before he decides that he's going to make it hefker, and or make it part of the Shut Rabim, so that other people are going to start walking in it. And so therefore, even though I'm responsible to pay for the pits, it's the landowner that's responsible to fill them in, and that's why he's responsible if something falls in. That was the first. Second halacha of Ravav. Amar Ravav, chnis shoro lachasar Baal Habayit shelo b'reshut. I bring my ox into your land without your permission. V'zik et Baal Habayit, or Baal Habayit huzak bo hayav. And then my ox goes and gores the homeowner, or the homeowner, as he's moving, trips on the animal and is damaged. Either way, the animal is damaged directly, or because of the animal's movement, or because of the homeowner's movement, the homeowner is damaged. I have to pay for it, right? I let my animal go into your courtyard without permission. However, ravatz patur, if my animal was crouching down and it caused some damage while crouching, I am not liable. So we wonder about that. Rav's statement, Umishum ravas patur, was just because he's crouching, he's not liable. He could break things while crouching. I should be liable. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa explains Ravat to his student. My Ravat, Rav Papa is Ravat's student. My Ravat sherbis gelalim shvenita nefu kelav shel Baal Habayit avya gelalim bor velo masinu bo shechiyeh bo et hakelim. Now, when Ravat said the word Ravat, he didn't mean crouching, but Ravat, as from the word of hirbitz, he spread out or dropped all over the place droppings of dung, and because of that, the vessels or clothing of the homeowner got all damaged from that, got soiled. And why would he be responsible in that case? Why would he not be responsible in that case, right? Rabat's patur. Well, because those droppings are like a pit. A pit doesn't have to be only an actual pit, but anything that you leave in some spot that can cause damage. And the general rule of pit is that a pit that causes damage to an animal, I am liable. But if I dig a pit and it causes damage to someone else's utensils, I am not liable. And so here, it only causes damage to the homeowner's utensils, and that's why, that explains why Rabat's patur. But any damage to the homeowner himself, I am liable. Okay, now we say, Hanicha Shmuel. This conclusion fits the opinion of Shmuel. Damar kol takala borhu el Rav damar ad mafkar le ma'ika lememar. Shmuel said that any obstruction is considered a pit. And the pit, well, although one would be liable if it damaged an animal, is not liable if it damaged a utensil. But according to Rav, a pit is not called a pit until I renounce ownership over it. And so over here, it doesn't say that he renounced ownership over those droppings. And so in that case, maybe one should be liable because it's not a pit. And here we say, no, you can assume that the animal owner did renounce ownership, because people usually renounce ownership of such droppings. Now the third and last statement of Rava in this context, V'amar Rava, Nichnas chasar Baal Habayit shelo b'shuv tizik et Baal Habayit, or Baal Habayit huzak bo hayav, hiziko Baal Habayit patur. The beginning is the same as what we just saw, that if my animal goes into your courtyard without permission, and it causes damage to the homeowner, or the homeowner trips over it and is damaged, I am liable. And if the homeowner causes damage to either me, but if I trespass, or my animal that trespassed, the homeowner is not liable. All right, now Papa asks about this. Papa lamaran ela de la havayada be hiziko Baal Habayit hayav. My tama mishum damar le nehi deit lach reshuta da peki azuke let lach reshuta. Papa qualifies Rava because it doesn't make sense in any case. Just because I trespass into your house means that you can go and beat me up? No, it doesn't make sense. So Rava says this is only true that the homeowner would be not liable if he didn't know I was there. So I sneak into the house, and he, in the meantime, is, moving stuff, and he's moving a bookcase and bangs into me. So, well, he didn't know I was there, so he should not have to pay. However, if he knew I was there, and he still went around and went ahead and he's moving things or doing blacksmithing or whatever he's doing there, he has to be aware that there's someone else that is in the house, and he can't purposely go and do dangerous things that will cause that person damage. If he does, he is liable, right? Why is he liable? Because the injured party, the one that trespassed, can say, okay, I know you have a right to kick me out of your house. I came without permission, but you don't have to have a right to just injure me. And so he still is liable. Rava and Rav Papa are both consistent with their opinion in saying here that if I enter your house without permission and I or my animal causes damage, I am liable. That is consistent with something else that they say, shenehem b'rshut or shenehem shelo b'rshut, hiziko ze chayavin. If me and someone else are both in some area and we both have permission to be there, like in the Shut Rabim, or we're both there without permission, like we're both in someone else's private domain without permission from them, and we directly cause damage to each other. Why punch you, you punch me, so we are liable for any damages. However, if we were indirectly damaged, I tripped over you or you tripped over me, then we are not liable to each other. That's the end of the statement, but we can infer the reason why we'll be either both liable or both not liable is because we both had the same status of both either being there with permission or without permission. But if one was there with permission, then in our case that would be the homeowner, and one was there without permission, that would be the trespasser. So the one that was there with permission. So if someone was there with permission and causes damage, he does not have to pay. And that would be the case where the homeowner didn't know that someone else was there, so he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be careful because he didn't know anybody was there. So that's why he's not liable. Whereas the trespasser who did not have permission, and if he or his animal causes damage, then he is liable. So as long as they're both have the same status, then they're both equally liable. But if one belongs there, one doesn't belong there, the one doesn't belong there has a higher level of liability. Moving on to the next section of the Mishnah that says, Nafal labor v'ish memav hayav. If my animal falls into a board and causes water in it to be contaminated, I am liable. Says that's only true if my ox directly caused contamination at the time that it fell. But if it only made it contaminated after a while because of the decomposing carcass while it's left in there, then I would not be liable. What's the difference? My ta'ama have shor bod umayim kelim v'lo bod shechiyah bod hakelim. If it damages directly, okay, that's direct damage, I'm liable. But if it's not directly, then the ox's body has the status of a board, right? Something that is sitting there, that is a dangerous item that's causing damage. Now, was it causing damage to? It's funny because it falls into the board, but now the ox itself becomes the board. What is it causing damage to? Water. Water has the same status of vessels. It's a movable item, not an animal, not a human. So the water has status of vessels, and the general rule is that one is not liable if one's pit damages vessels, and that's why if it's there for a while, then it's considered bored and is not liable. Now, Hani Shmuel, Rava's ruling makes sense for Shmuel Damar Kol Takala board, who he says any obstruction has the status of a pit. El Rav Damar Adam Afkar Le Ma'ika Le Memad, but Rav says only something that's declared ownerless becomes a pit. And here, beforehand, we said regarding the droppings, we can assume everyone would make the droppings hefker. But here, it's his ox that's in there. He's not going to make his ox hefker, even if it's dead. It's still worth money. So now this does not have the status of a pit, so should be liable. Why, according to Rav, would it be? How could Rava explain himself according to Rav? Even if it's after a while, one should still be liable. Why did Rava say not so? So you know what? We have to understand Rava's statement as follows. Amar Rava, lo shanu ela ish migufo, aval ish merecho patur. One is liable. This is at least within Rav. The owner of the ox is liable if it caused contamination of the water through its body, not only at the time that it fell in, but even if by leaving it there and it decomposed, the body itself caused the water to go bad. But if it's not from the body itself, but just from the stench of the decomposing body, then the homeowner or then the ox owner would not be liable. Because gerama means indirect action. My ox is, it's not whatever. It's not even it's not the cause of the water. It's just that it smells bad, and then that smell goes into the air, goes around, makes the water smell bad. But that's not directly from the animal, and that's why even according to Rav, even if it's not a pit, the animal's right there, but the animal itself is not causing the water to go bad, but rather only the smell, so that does not count. Now the next part of the Mishnah said, Haya abiv o beno letocho meshalem et hakofer. My ox goes into your field and falls into a pit, and lo and behold, the homeowner's father or son were in that very pit, and my ox, by falling on them, kills them. I have to pay ransom. Now we ask, V'amai ha-tamhu? Why should I have to pay ransom? This is a shor tam. Isn't the general rule that a shor mu'ad pays ransom, but a shor tam, even if it kills someone, I do not have to pay ransom. Amar Rav mu'ad lipol b'nei adam beborot askin. Now Rav says it is a shor tam for general things, but it so happens that this animal is mu'ad for this specific activity of falling on people in pits. For some reason, it sees someone in a pit and it has to fall on him and kill him. It's done this 3 times, and so therefore it is in fact mu'ad for this activity, and that's why the homeowner has to pay for a kofir. We ask, wait, in that case, then you'd actually also have to kill the animal, but it doesn't say that we kill the animal. Amar Rav Yosef, tachaza yeroka v'nafal. We're talking about a case where the animal saw some vegetation at the edge of the pit, and it just was trying to get it, and it slipped and fell in. It did not intend to fall. It did not intend to cause damage, and certainly not to kill someone in the pit. And therefore, since it was not its intention, we saw in various cases before that even an animal intended to kill an animal but killed a human, it's not liable to the death penalty. So certainly here, where it didn't intend to kill anybody at all, that's why it doesn't get death penalty. Nevertheless, it did in fact do this activity before, and it did kill someone, so therefore the owner has to pay for kofir. All that is the answer of Rav. However, we have a couple of more answers of why he pays kofir, even though it's a shor tam. So Shmuel says it's a totally shor tam. Shmuel Amar Hamaneh, and who's the author of this part of the Mishnah? Rabbi Yosef Galilihi Damar Tam Meshalem Hasi Kofir. Rabbi Yosef Galili says that even the shor tam pays half ransom. Although the Torah only mentions ransom by a shor mo'ad, that's because there he has to pay a full amount. But just like for damages, shor mu'ad pays all damages and shor tam pays half damages. Same thing if an animal kills, shor mu'ad pays full kofir and shor tam pays half kofir. So when the Mishnah says pays the kofir, what it means is half kofir. And a third answer, Ula Amar, Rabbi Yosef Galilihi. Rabbi Ula agrees with Shmuel's answer that this is the opinion of Rabbi Yosef Galili that a shor tam would pay half. But he adds to that, Damar ke Rabbi Tarfon, who also agrees with Rabbi Tarfon. Damar keren b'chaser nizak nezek shalem meshalem tachiname kofir shalem meshalem. Rabbi Tarfon, if we remember some time back, he says that Keren, although Keren, there's a difference between Tam and Mu'ad, that's in the Shut Harabim. But according to the Bitarfon, if an animal causes damage in the courtyard of the Nizak, then even a short tam has to pay a full amount. So if you combine these two together, then by analogy, just like the difference between tam and mu'ad only applies in the Shut Harabim for nezek, so too we can say that for the Bioseh Galili, combining with the Bitarfon, the difference between tam and mu'ad, but if the animal kills someone, and we said tam is half kofir and mu'ad is full kofir, that's only in the Shut Harabim. But if it's in the courtyard of the nizak, then even a short tam would have to pay full kofir. Good. Now we understand, according to Ula, that's why the Mishnah talked about a case of his father or his son being in the pit, because it only applies in the courtyard of the owner. And so who's going to fall in the court? Who's going to be in the courtyard of the owner? Most likely a father or a son. And someone who's part of his household. So that makes perfect sense. But according to Shmuel, Shmuel's law does not depend on it being in the Shut HaNizak. He thinks that no matter where it happens, if a short time kills someone, one pays chatzi kofir. So this could be in the street, and it could be just a random person. What does it matter that if it's what does it matter that it's one's father or father or son? It could be anyone, anywhere. And the answer is you're right. We're just giving a typical scenario, right? Usually, if it goes into your courtyard, it's probably going to kill someone from your family. But you're right; it would be the same if it killed anybody else, anywhere else. Finally, we come to the end of the Mishnah that teaches V'michnis b'rshut ba'al haser hayav. If I had permission to bring my ox into your courtyard and something happened to my ox, it was damaged, then the courtyard owner is liable, right? By giving permission to come in, that implies that the courtyard owner is accepting responsibility, like a shomer. That was Tanakama. But Rabbi, and the very end of the Mishnah says, no, not so. The homeowner is not liable unless he explicitly says, I accept upon myself responsibility for any damages to your animal. If he doesn't say that explicitly, then even though he gives permission to come in, he says, yeah, come in, but I'm not accepting responsibility. I only give permission to come in, but not that I'm gonna pay for loss if something happens to your animal. So that is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's opinion. So Rav agrees with Tanakama, and Shmuel says halacha follows Rabbi. Okay, now we're going to quote a Braita, and we're going to show that this Braita seems self-contradictory, and we'll see a couple of ways to resolve it. Tenor Banan. Kenos shorecha v'shomro hizik hayav huzak patur. If a homeowner says, you're allowed to bring your ox here, but you have to watch it. So there he's explicitly saying, I am not accepting responsibility to watch it. If in the end that ox causes damage, the ox owner has to pay. And if it got damaged, the homeowner does not have to pay. So because he said, right, I'm not responsible for anything. So in that case, the ox owner is fully responsible. Second case, if, however, the homeowner said, bring it in and I will watch it, bring your ox in, I will watch it, then if the ox that came in got damaged, the homeowner is responsible. And if the ox that came in caused damage, the homeowner is not responsible, right? Because here he explicitly says, I will take care of all responsibilities. Okay, so now we have the excluded middle problem. And the first one, he explicitly said, I'm not watching it, you're responsible. And the second case, he explicitly said, I'm responsible. But what if he didn't say anything? Well, if you just have one or the other, you'll get different opposite inferences. Hagufa kashya, amat keno shorcha aveshamro, hizik chayav huzak patur. In the first case, he said, if the homeowner says, bring it in and you watch it, And in that case, if the ox causes damage, the owner of the ox is liable, and if it gets damaged, the homeowner is not responsible. That's what we said. So we can infer ta'amad amar le shamra. The only reason why this is the ruling is because the homeowner said, "You watch it." Dechaya ba'al ashor upatur ba'al chaser. That's why the owner of the ox is liable, but not the owner of the yard. Ha-setama, but if the owner of the yard said nothing, right, just bring it in, but didn't say explicitly one way or the other, then we can infer that chaya ba'al chaser upatur ba'al ashor debistama mekabel ale netiruta, that the owner of the yard would be liable and the owner of the ox would not be liable, because by saying nothing, that means that the homeowner is accepting responsibility. That is the opinion of Tanakama in our Mishnah. However, if we focus only on the second case, emasefa, in that case, the homeowner says, bring it in and I will watch it, in which case the homeowner is fully responsible if the animal that comes in gets damaged. And if it causes damage, the owner of the ox is not responsible. So why does the homeowner get all the liability? Because he said, I will safeguard it. I'm responsible for any damages it does or has done to him. That's why the homeowner is liable and not the ox owner. But we can infer that if he said nothing, he just said come in, but he didn't say about anything about responsibility. Then the owner of the ox would be liable and not the owner of the yard, because without saying anything, we assume he does not accept responsibility, and that is the opinion of Rabbi. So atan l'Rabbi damar ad shekabela lenetiruta ba'al habayit lishmor. Right, the inference from the Sefa follows Rabbi, who says that unless the homeowner fully accepts explicitly the responsibility to safeguard it, we assume he does not accept it. So now we have a problem. Resha Rabbanan v'Sefa Rabbi. The Resha of this Baraita is going to be the Tanakama Rabbanan, and the Sefa is Rabbi. That doesn't make sense. The one answer is Amar Rabbi Elazar Tabra. Misha Shanazo, Lo Shanazo. Yeah, we've seen this strategy before. Yes, you can disassociate the first and second. In fact, this is a collection. It's an anthology of two different statements that are actually by two different people. In fact, the first one follows Rabbanan, the second one follows Rabbi. However, Rava Amar Kula Rabbanan hi. I did in the Sibresha Shomro Tinasefa Ve'ani Eshmerenu. Rava says, in fact, the whole thing is Rabbanan, and that's why the opening the first clause, that has a specific language. It's only because he says specifically, I am not watching it, you're watching it. That's why he's off the hook. But otherwise, if he said nothing, the homeowner would be liable. Now, in the Sefa, the language there is not exact. It just, since in the Resha it said, you watch it, so then for parallelism purposes, and the Sefa says, I will watch it. But really, even if he didn't say anything at all, the homeowner would still be responsible. That's the second answer. And the third answer, the Papa Amar Kula Rabbi, is the opposite. The entire Baraita is the opinion of Rabbi. V'sabar la Rabbi Tarfon, Damar Keren v'chasar hanizak, nezek shalem mishalem. In fact, the whole thing is Rabbi, and Rabbi agrees with Rabbi Tarfon that says that if you have damage by keren in the courtyard of the nizak, then the ox owner has to pay a full amount. Applying that to this case is as follows: Hilkach amar le shomro la makni le makom bechaser. When the homeowner says, bring it in, even though he said, okay, you have permission to come in, so it's not totally trespassing, still by saying, you, ox owner, you have to safeguard your ox, that's the same as not giving him any portion, not actually giving him a right to come in to his yard. Havyale keren b'chasar hanizak. And that's why this is a case of damage by keren in the courtyard of the nizak. See, when he says come in and I'll watch it, or it just says come in and I'll watch it, right? Then he's saying, yes, you have permission to come and you have ownership. You don't own it, but you own it to the extent that you have permission to use it for your ox. But but when he says, no, I want you to watch it, then he's not giving him any part in it. And so, Keren b'chaser nizak meshalem nezek shalem, and according to Rabbi Tarfon, unlike Rabbanan say it's a short time, the Reshut Nizak only pays half. But Rabbi Tarfon says short time, even the short time in the Reshut Nizak has to pay a full amount. So because he said Shomro, that's why he did not give over permission. Now, what if he didn't? Lo amar le Shomro, akne la makom bechaser v'havi aleh chasar shutafin v'keren b'chasar shutafin eno meshalem ela chasi nezek. So the inference that you made from the Resha is not exact. This is how we're solving the problem. Because he said Shomra, that's why Shomra is saying you have no right to be here, right? Even though he said come in, but by saying Shomra, it's at your own risk, basically, right? You'll have to pay full nezik. But if he didn't say Shomra, he just said Stam. Now, this is all according to the B. So if he says I accept the responsibility, then okay, he's certainly responsible. The homeowner is responsible for everything. But if he says Stam, then we assume the homeowner did not accept upon himself responsibility, but also since he didn't say Shomra, he did allow permission for him to come in, and so that's the same as transferring a right to that area, so that it's no longer the Reshut HaNizak. Instead, that's called a yard of partners, and in a yard that's of partners, Keren, that damage that's caused by in a joint ownership area, one pays chasi nezek. So in fact, you have the Resha when he says show you watch it, then the ox is fully responsible following Rabbi Tarfon. If he says nothing at all, if he says come in but doesn't say who's going to be responsible, then the ox owner would have to pay half nezek, because then that's considered the chasar shutafin. And if the homeowner says I'll be responsible, then the ox owner does not have to pay any amount, and the homeowner would actually have to pay for any damage that's caused to the ox. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.